everyone. I'm Kathleen Ennis-Durstine. I manage chaplaincy services at Children's National Hospital in Washington, D.C. We're really excited to be starting a new part of our program of education and diversity within chaplaincy services and Children's National. Tonight, we are delighted to have Rabbi Dr. Joel Brooks with us. He's going to be helping us learn a little bit about the upcoming Jewish holiday of Purim.
Hi, everyone.
So, Joel, Rabbi Doctor, that's a lot. Can you tell us how that came to be?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So, actually, the rabbi did come first. I was studying to be a rabbi while I was in my undergraduate classes, and it took me 4 years. So, the 3 years of undergraduate, and then my first year of medical school was when I completed my rabbinical training.
Wow, Joel, that's a lot of education. Was it hard to make that decision to study both of those intense programs?
It was. It wasn't a decision I made lightly either, but I had a lot of good role models to follow. My father is a rabbi and a doctor, and his father was also a rabbi. And so I grew up in a home which combined religious study and secular. And part of my interest in medicine actually stemmed from working with my father and actually going to nursing homes every week and visiting patients in the hospital.
Wow.
And that was really my first exposure to medicine and seeing how the spiritual healing can help just as much sometimes as medicine and science. And so I knew kind of growing up that I wanted to be able to combine those two. And fortunately I was able to choose a profession and go into a profession that allowed me to study both, and to every day I can now apply that.
I think it's wonderful, and we're so fortunate to have you as a part of Children's National Hospital and being able to share that perspective with our patients, families, and staff. And I'm really grateful that you are here to be helping us in chaplaincy services as well as we continue to try to educate and expand the diversity training within Children's.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you are welcome. So we're here really to talk a little bit about the holiday of Purim, which comes up next week. Friday of next week, or?
I believe it's Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
I think this year, I think it falls out on St. Patrick's Day.
All right. So tell us a little bit about the background and history of Purim.
Of course. So in ancient times, in ancient Persia, there was a large Jewish community, and Persia at the time was one of the largest civilizations in the world. And there was a king, and he had at the time an evil advisor by the name of Haman. And Haman had plotted to destroy the Jews living in this in the kingdom. Okay. And the holiday of Purim actually stems from the word lots. And so he drew lots to choose the dates to set for destruction. And through the hand of God, the Jewish people were saved from the persecution, from being destroyed. And that happened through the Queen Esther, and who became the new bride to the king, and her uncle, Mordecai, who became the advisor to the king. And it was through these heroes that the Jewish people were able to be saved.
That's not an uncommon story, is it, in the Jewish tradition?
No, it's unfortunately the Jewish people have encountered persecution in many generations. But I think that's what makes the story of Purim so timeless in a sense. And the reason why we celebrate it every year is to remember that in every generation there is persecution, not just of Jews, but of people of all faiths and religions and beliefs. And it's a reminder that we need to stand up for them, that we need to band together as a community. And so much of what we do in this holiday reminds us that we have come together as a community. And it's our job to stand up, to be, to stop persecution and to defend those who are being persecuted.
Wow, wow. If we could all learn that, right? So what would the celebration look like? What is the service like, or what are the practices associated with Purim?
Absolutely. So it happens to be a very fun holiday. So
A fun holiday. Okay.
Probably one of the most fun, actually. So the holiday begins in the evening, and we come together and we read the Megillah, the story of Purim, that's written on a scroll. And it's tradition that we do this, we gather together in groups. So absolutely, one can always read it by themselves, but we say the commandment, the mitzvah, is enhanced when it's done in a group. And so we read the story together, and then afterwards it's traditional to break bread, to eat snacks and goodies and cookies and meals together afterwards. And so that's how we begin the holiday.
Okay.
And then there are several other commandments, mitzvot, that relate to the community, because the important part of this holiday is stressing the community, that we must all come together. And so there's special commandments to give to those in need, both monetary as well as foods. And then we actually give gifts of foods to one another. And it's tradition to always give, the foods that we give should always be two different kinds of foods, such as a drink and a snack, or it shouldn't just be two cookies. It should be a cookie and a soda, or something that people can sit back and enjoy. And ideally, eat those together.
So I was looking up some traditions and practices and discovered that there are many things that might be brought to a service of Purim. And I thought I would just put some of them in this basket and hand you this basket and have you take them out maybe a few at a time and tell us a little bit about what they are and how you would use them.
Absolutely. So like I said, this is the fun holiday.
Okay.
So we'll start actually, I think, maybe with the masks.
Okay.
So traditionally, it's not uncommon to dress up on the holiday of Purim. We might dress up with masks. So I think these are meant to represent the main characters of the story. So we have Mordecai, the Jewish advisor. We have Haman, the wicked advisor. And we have Queen Esther, the heroine of our story.
Okay.
And we dress up because there is a special commandment on Purim to be happy, to enjoy and celebrate life, celebrate the community. And so as part of that, we dress up. Kids will kind of create costumes, and everyone takes part, and it's a fun time.
Okay.
And that actually leads us into these fun puppets. It's also not uncommon, apart from dressing up, that some people put on plays, sometimes enacting the story of Purim, and sometimes just for the jokes and to create laughter. And so I think we have here Queen Esther, and probably the king, and Haman, wicked advisor.
He's scowling like a very wicked advisor.
I know, right?
Yes, yeah.
And then I think we have Mordecai, the good advisor.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think that's everybody there.
We certainly know which one is Esther, right?
Absolutely.
We can figure her out.
The one who went to the king to ask permission to overturn the evil decree against the Jews.
That must have put her in some danger.
Oh, it did. And actually in the story of Purim that we read in the Megillah, Esther, when Mordecai approached Esther and said, there's been this decree made against the Jews, and we are to be destroyed on this date, he asked, can you speak to the king? So Esther responded, well, to go to the king uninvited was there, you could be put to death for that. And so Esther asked that all the Jews in the city of Shushan, the city of the king, should fast for 3 days. And on the third day, she went to the king.
Okay.
And Mordecai agreed, and the Jews of the city fasted. And the fast became known as the Fast of Esther. And now every year, the day before Purim starts, on that eve, we fast to commemorate the Fast of Esther.
Okay.
And on that day, Esther goes to the king. And as a miracle, he extends the scepter to her, which implies that she can enter and and she will be, and she's accepted, and she's safe. And he asks her, "What brings you here?" And she says, "Well, if the king would honor me, I'd like to invite him to a party tonight."
Okay.
And so, and the king accepts. And the king, and she asks, "Can Haman come as well?" And he accepts as well. And so at that party in that evening, he asks, the king asks her, "What is your request? Whatever you want, half the kingdom is yours." She says, "Well, if it would delight the king, please come to my party tomorrow." So she invites him for a second party, and Haman. And at the second party, that's where she pleads for her life and the life of her people. And she asks the king, "Please spare my people." He responds, "Well, who would have made such a decree against them?" And she turns to Haman and says, "It was Haman."
Okay.
And because of her, the Jewish people were saved.
So she took her authority and spoke up and
Saved an entire people.
Saved an entire people. It's a pretty amazing story.
It is.
Yeah. So what is that other thing in there? It's red and yellow and made of wood, and I think it has a funny name.
It does. It's called the Grogger.
Okay. Oh, all right.
Makes a loud sound now.
It makes a lot of sound now.
So what the Grogger is, it's a noisemaker.
Yeah.
And so as we read the Megillah, the story of Purim, as we get to the name of Haman, it's traditional to make that sound.
All right.
To drown out his name, and to, it's our way of blotting him out, of making sure that people don't remember him, and to destroy his legacy. In order to, and actually, it goes to the second thing too that we have in here, the delightful treats called the Hamantaschen.
Ah,
the three-cornered, almost like cookies.
Almost like cookies.
But taste wonderful. And so why do we have those as well? Well, both are meant as different ways of blotting out the legacy of Haman, that legacy of hatred. And so when we read his name, we blot it out with the sound. And when we have these cookies, they're three-cornered. Well, why are they triangle-shaped cookies? Why are not circle? Because Haman had, tradition says that Haman had a triangle hat. And when we eat the Hamantaschen, it's like we're eating and destroying his legacy again.
Okay.
So these things are kind of what we do to commemorate both the miracle of Purim, but also not forgetting that we have to destroy the legacy of hate that persists. And so that's our way of blotting out his name from what is written, as well as blotting out the memory. And it doesn't hurt that they taste wonderful.
Well, it's getting rid of the bad taste and taking in some sweetness, getting rid of the darkness and taking in the light.
Exactly.
And not letting the darkness overcome that which is good and pure and valuable in the world. We shouldn't remember the evil, we should remember the good.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. If I meet a colleague on Purim, what is my appropriate greeting for them?
Well, there's a few.
Okay.
Traditionally, and the most common is simply saying Happy Purim.
All right.
Happy Holiday is also appropriate. Hag Sameach, which means in Hebrew, Happy Holidays. But Happy Purim is really the most commonly used.
Okay, good. Thank you. That is really good for us to know. I was wondering if you might also address something else. You spoke earlier about the holiday starting at sundown. And many Jewish holidays begin at sundown and go to the following sundown or to a sundown several days later. Could you explain to people who might be curious why that particular configuration of the day?
Absolutely. So all Jewish holidays actually start the night before, and they start at sundown and go until the sundown following. And the reason for that is Jewish holidays, they follow the lunar calendar. And for us, all our holidays, we consider the day starting actually the night beforehand. So that's why sundown of the day that a holiday would start is when we actually have consider the holiday starting.
Okay. Is there a tradition, a scriptural reference, or something upon which to base that, or?
Yes. In the holidays and both the Sabbath, in the Torah, it all begins. It states that it always begins the night before.
Okay.
Always begins at the night.
Okay. Any connection to the Genesis story of creation? There was morning and there was evening, and it was the first day, or is it really more a?
Yeah, in a sense, the very beginning, and in the beginning there was evening. In Hebrew, we say "Vahi erev, vahi boker," and there was evening, and then there was morning. So that's where it all stems from. Is that in the beginning, the evening, and night was created, and from night we break into the day.
Terrific. I think those are really important things for us to try to understand as we live in a much more diverse world. Would you like to close us with any other thoughts you have about the meaning of Purim for today's communities, the Jewish community or the world community? And anything else you'd just like to share with us tonight?
Absolutely. So I think that the themes of Purim apply. It is a timeless concept, and I think in today's age, especially with current events, that it's more important than ever to remember what does Purim mean? It means community. It means coming together. It means supporting one another. It also means standing up to tyranny, to stand against persecution, and more so now than ever, we've experienced the pandemic now, in the COVID-19 pandemic, where we've seen how important community is in supporting one another. And now we move on and we see still persecution in the world, in communities, in countries. And it's incumbent upon us to take that stand, to come together as a community, because only together can we make a stand, to stand against persecution, stand against tyranny. And like we said, going from night and breaking into the day, and only through doing that together can we hope to have a better and brighter tomorrow.
That is quite true, isn't it? So I guess we all need to find the courage of Esther, the wisdom of Mordecai, and maybe the willingness to listen of the king.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Dr. Brooks, Rabbi Dr. Brooks, it is just wonderful to be able to be here again with you today, and we look forward to the next holy day, and we will find some other exciting things to share with our community.
I look forward to it. Thank you so much for having me.
You are so welcome. Thank you. Hope you've enjoyed this and learned something important.
And happy Purim.
Happy Purim.